Hey everybody, Tony D and Little Joan here with a hot take on 538 and an article called The Ideas That Are Reshaping the Democratic Party and America by Perry Bacon Jr. Many Americans probably don't know exactly what terms such as anti-racism, cancel culture, racial equity, white privilege, and systematic racism mean. They all mean racism. Uh, and it's likely even fewer could explain concepts such as woke ideology, critical race theory, or intersectionality. Also racism. But these terms are now regularly invoked by activists, pundits, and even some elected officials. Why? Because woke tards are everywhere. Right, Little John? Yes. All right, here you are, back here. Just sit here and be good, okay? Um, so here's the ideas on the left that are ascendant, according to this article. The United States has often not lived up to the ideas of its founders or the notion that it's a quote exceptional nation that should be a model for other countries because the U.S. has disempowered its native and black populations and women throughout its history. America has never been a true or full democracy. Well, there's so many things wrong with that. Okay, so first off, we're a constitutional republic or a democratic republic. We were never a full democracy or a true democracy. That was Athens. And how'd that work out? Not so good. The whole idea of an exceptional nation, I don't think that was part of the founders' ideas. No, you're conflating a bunch of notions that you've sort of gleaned over the years from probably Vice and Slate. Um, we should be a model for other countries because we have a constitution. And it's worked out pretty good until you a-holes started effing it up. The U.S. has disempowered its native and black population and women throughout its history. It's absolutely not true. That is absolutely 100% not true. First off, I'm not sure what disempowered even means. But I assume it means something like we've made them less powerful. How? How? Everybody is created equal under the law in the United States. We made them equal. We made them equal. Officially, under the law. Now, yeah, it was true that in the early days it wasn't totally equal, but it certainly was true up until about 20 years ago when you woke tards started flapping your gums. So all that is a bunch of bull. Oh, which reminds me, because I'm stopping myself from cursing. I did a Bitchute Rumble exclusive today, so make sure you go click over that where I really just I just went off. I'm sorry. There's a lot of cursing in that one. I was just infuriated, but this was going to be part of that. I was going to save that for that because YouTube, but I'm gonna try to hold my tongue here. Number two, white people, of course, particularly white men, are especially advantaged in American society. White privilege. Advantage at what? Advantage at what exactly? What? How? No, it's just this is a given to the left. These are all radical left concepts. It's just not true. People, give me an example where white men just sort of waltz in and get the job, or it's like that Eddie Murphy sketch back in the '80s from Saturday Night Live where he did White Like Me, and there was a scene where he's on a bus and there's one black guy on the bus and he gets off and it's just all white people and Eddie in disguise, and he says when white people are alone they give things to each other. The white people just give him money and things. Oh, go ahead, take it. No one else is here. That's what these woke leftists think. Number three, people of color, which is a terrible term, in America suffer from not only individualized and overt acts of racism, someone uses a racial slur, for example, but a broader systematic or institutional racism. Again, this is all made up BS from the woke left. Was there institutional racism? Yeah, in the government during the days of Jim Crow, like 60, 70 years ago. I mean, that was all undone. Hello, civil rights movement. Um, Systematic racism. How now? Well, these people conflate all of history together. It's like, oh, we were slaves like a week ago. No, you weren't. There's no slaves left alive in America anymore. They're all long dead. And, I'm not denying that slavery didn't happen, but, the idea that, oh my God, there was such racism. 20 years ago, prior to all this woke nonsense, the progressives had moderate views for the most part. There were a few radicals, but mostly moderate. This has all been hyped up by places like China and leftists who want to believe they're so wonderful and woke. Oh, love me, daddy, love me. They latch on to these ideas. A lot of it, again, it's a lot of women. They get sucked into this because they can't stand the thought, I think, of someone saying to them, "Oh, you're a racist," or "Oh, you're not very nice," or "You said something transphobic or homophobic or whatever." They kind of can't stand that. Guys kind of get that criticism in general. Like, they get tons of criticism. We get tons of criticism for all kinds of things. So when somebody calls you a name, it just sort of washes over you like, who cares? F you. But I think it impacts women a lot harder because they're more image conscious. Yeah, and if you don't believe me, check out the selfies your girlfriend took. How many did she take before she picked one? Again, it's not all women, but a lot of women. Number 4, capitalism, oh Jesus, as currently practiced in America, is deeply flawed, giving way to too much money and power to the wealthy. Based on what? What is too much power and wealth? What is too much? Jeff Bezos runs a massive company. That's awesome, by the way. So you're telling me he has too much power and wealth? He's running a company very well. He has run that company very well. I have to hand it to him. And I don't particularly worship rich guys, but Jeff Bezos, and I don't agree with a lot of his politics either, or the fact that he got married and then divorced. But that guy, man, Amazon is a really great company. There's just no arguing with it. If you've ever ordered anything from Amazon, it's just amazing. America's economy should not be set up in a way that allows people to accumulate billions of dollars of wealth. That is your opinion, number one. And why? Why should it not be allowed to do that? Jeff Bezos deserves that money. He created an amazing company that does amazing things. It really does. It has completely revolutionized the book industry. People can publish books now. They can get their books printed for next to nothing on demand. That is so helpful to an author. It's so incredibly helpful. That's just one of the many things he's accomplished by making his company. Same thing with Apple. I mean, Apple did great things. I mean, I'm not a big fan of their Chinese factories, but they've done great things. There's no denying that the Apple phone has changed the world. The smartphone has changed the world. It's given people in the poorest communities access to the internet 24/7. That's the sum of human knowledge. And that brings them out of poverty. It was crushing crime in these areas because everybody has a smartphone. Everybody can call 911 like that and get help. They have video cameras everywhere. Anybody could record anything, and that helped too deter crime. So, this is just an opinion piece. And the idea that you should accept, capitalism is flawed in America. It's flawed everywhere because people are flawed. But the idea that there's too much power and wealth and that people shouldn't be allowed to accumulate billions, that's the opinion of a bunch of commie idiots, in my view. 5, women suffer from systematic sexism. Shut up. I know. You're going to say, oh, you're just a misogynist, Tony. I heard what you said about women in your other videos. Look, women are different. And part of the problem is, much like racism now, is anybody who expresses opinion outside the leftist narrative is immediately a racist, immediately homophobic, transphobic, sexist, blah, 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 blah. That's not true. And you have to define your terms. What is systematic sexism? You know what happens in a doctor's office with women? Most women, on average, don't necessarily get the care they need. And guys tend to get more. You know why? Because guys will complain when they're sick. Women want to suck it up because they don't want the help, because that's part of their nurturing nature. And so, yeah, that happens. But it's not the fault of the doctors. It's biology. Because it's the woman who doesn't want to be gone from her family, even for a moment, to be sick and let her guard down. Because everything will fall apart without her. That's why I know a lot of women who feel that way. So they, they'll go to the doctor and they'll complain about a ton of stuff, but ultimately they won't get the help they need a lot of times. It's just the dynamics of men and women. It's different. So to call everything sexism, well, that's just intersectional feminists, saying that. It's BS. It's complete BS. Number 6, people should be able to identify whatever gender they prefer, or not to identify by gender at all. Yes and no. The problem with this is you have people who will do it for an hour. Hey, I'm going to the gym. I think I'll go shower in the girls' locker room. I'm feeling like a girl right now. I'm all sweaty and hairy, but now I'm a girl. There has to be limits. And there are in certain states and certain countries. I believe in the UK, it's a 2-year commitment to be trans before you're officially recognized. And that seems like a committed, you've been trans for 2 years. You're living as a woman, or you're living as a man. You're living as the opposite sex. That seems like, okay, yeah, you're in. Yeah, sure, you're trans. You've been doing it for 2 years. But there are people who will totally abuse this. And it's already happening. We're seeing signs of that. We're seeing signs of YouTubers who are going trans just for a few hits. We're seeing signs of trans athletes. They're crushing women's sports, absolutely obliterating them. So, should people be able to identify? Yeah, but there should be some rules and limits to that. You shouldn't be able to identify as genders you just made up. Some of this stuff has to have some scientific consensus behind it. And it could, if the leftists would stop shouting bigot at everybody who makes a suggestion. Even here on YouTube. I mean, people just get crushed down. My friend's been trans. It was a really difficult transition for her. And it took years. Sexuality is complicated for people. And but she saw through it, and now she's very committed. She's very happy. I'm glad for her. It's like, but she's the real deal. But there are some women who, and some men too, I'm sure, who are just, they seem like they're just on board the gender trender bandwagon for the attention, because there are people who just need attention and they'll do anything to get it. And this is a trend. I talked about women who are just, they're so gung-ho to have their children be trans. Are they pushing them into it? They could be. They could be. I'm sure there's going to be studies in the future about it, because now we're in the trend. We can't look at studies from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it wasn't trendy to have a trans kid. It wasn't like, I'm going to score all sorts of points on the internet because my kid is trans. 10 years ago, you would have gotten a lukewarm reception. People would have been, trans? What's trans all about? Now it's like the hottest thing ever. So, just slow down. Should people identify as the gender they prefer? Yeah, within limits. There's got to be a process. Let them go through a process. And it should be mostly private. We don't need this grand reveal on everybody. That's part of the problem, because that's attracting these people who just want the drama. They just want attention. Number 7, the existence of a disparity. For example, black, Latino, or women being underrepresented in a given profession or industry is evidence of discrimination, even if no overt acts of discrimination are visible. So this is a big one. The existence of a disparity. Like any disparity. Look, some people are taller. That's an existence of a disparity. I can reach higher things because I'm a little taller than most people. How do we cure that disparity? That disparity doesn't need to be cured. Not every disparity is like, oh my God, call in the cops. We have to stop. There's a disparity here. What if you have a barbershop in a black neighborhood? And black barbershops tend to be kind of their own genre thing, right? I mean, in the black community, the barbershop is like a real place. It's like a place to hang out. The community really likes the barbershop. It's different in that community. Are you going to force black barbers to hire a white barber, a Latino barber, a Chinese barber? That would be ridiculous. It would be absolutely insane. It's a black barbershop. Who cares if they're all black barbers? No one cares. It's just the local population. And that's what happens in a lot of places. You can't force these quotas on people. It's already been established. They don't work. You end up hiring people who aren't qualified just to hire them and say, well, we made the quota. It's happened in fire departments, police departments. Now these woke-tards are trying to push it on everybody. They're trying to push it into the private sector. It's already having an impact. Coke announced, well, we're not going to work with any law firms that don't have enough black attorneys. That's totally racist. They can't do that. There's going to be lawsuits to beat the band, and it's going to be about discrimination. And you're atomizing, and what about, every other race? You'll be in court forever arguing over this stuff. But that's the point of the woke idiots. They just want to complain about everything until we say enough is enough. So it's not evidence of discrimination. It's not evidence of discrimination. Just because you happen to have all black barbers in a black barbershop doesn't mean they're discriminating. Doesn't mean that a white guy didn't come in and they said, oh, we can't hire a white guy. Just means they hired locals. Probably. Not necessarily, but probably. So it doesn't mean people are racist. Black Americans deserve reparations to make up for slavery and post-slavery racial discrimination. Says you. Black Americans, and how do you define? I mean, I've been over this. How do you define black Americans? If black Americans deserve reparations for slavery, what about other people who are descended from slaves? What about the Israelis? What about Jewish people? They were slaves for thousands and thousands of years in Egypt. Don't they deserve reparations? Why don't they get reparations? There's also slavery in the Barbary Coast, and most of those slaves were white, taken by mostly Muslim nations at the time. This is insane. We talked about it in Wokistan. They try to calculate reparations going back to the dawn of civilization. It's impossible. Everybody is literally descended from a slave, with the possible exceptions of maybe, Queen Elizabeth and her family. Other than that, literally everyone is descended from have slaves in their bloodline. Just the way world history pans out, going back thousands and thousands of years. Oh, but slavery only really happened in America, according to these woke idiots. Number 9, law enforcement agencies from local police departments to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement are designed to defend America's status quo as much as public safety mission. Based on what? What do you base that on? That's your opinion. Is it true? It can be true. Depends on, you know. And look, make no mistake, this part of the woke idiot squad will turn against them. Oh, if you make the officers woke, when the wokeness comes to get you, you're done. Because they won't stop at black and white. Then it'll be male and female. Then it'll be, there's already been the articles. Oh, wait, certain black people aren't dark enough. They won't stop. They will atomize all the way down to the individual and then realize, oh, we should have done this by merit. Duh. When they treat people of color or the poor badly, now it's the poor too, they are working as they are designed. No, that's completely wrong. So these agencies must be defunded, abolished, disbanded, or at least dramatically changed if the goal is to improve their treatment of the people of color and the poor. That's not their goal. Their goal is to protect and serve. Their goal is to not make those distinctions. They're supposed to protect and serve everyone equally. And for the most part, they try to. And they do. The problem is there's too many laws and they've been given too much power and people expect them to do everything. You know, you've got people calling them up for every noise complaint. You got people calling them up for domestic squabbles that they have no business being involved in. If you want to fix the police, you have to dramatically reduce their workload. Legalizing prostitution would do that. So would legalizing drugs. That would dramatically reduce their workload, and they could focus on murders, assaults, and theft, which is what we all want them to do. But not these woke idiots. These woke idiots will have them policing speech. You think it's bad now. Huh. And finally, 10. Trump's political rise was not an aberration or a surprise. It totally was. Politicians in both parties, particularly Republicans, have long used racialized language to demean people of color. Trump didn't do that. Trump was just more direct and crude about it. I would say he was not. I mean, he was more direct and crude, but not about that. While his messages resonated with a lot of Americans, particularly white people and conservatives, not true. Because lots of Americans have negative views about people of color, black people in particular. Also not true. So most of this is based on, college student opinion and Twitter, in my view. In fact, most of the racism now is coming from the left. They want segregation. They scream the most racist things in BLM and Antifa riots to the cops. Oh, but that's okay because they're cops and they deserve it, according to the left. These views are now expressed regularly by left-leaning people and Democrats, particularly those who use Twitter and are involved in a Black Lives Matter movement and are under the age of 40. So what? Twitter is less than 2% of the population and dropping every day. Under the age of 40, that could mean high school students. Those people shouldn't count in your surveys. Their opinions don't matter. They're children. Books such as Ibrahim X. Kendi's How to Be Anti-Racist and Isabel Wilkerson's Caste have become bestsellers because they appeal to people with these views and are likely pushing those who read them even further in this direction. No, they're popular because this is the trend. And people are afraid if they don't read them and don't talk about them, they're racist. This is mostly fear. Oh, now look at this. Perhaps most important, these views are powerfully shaping public discourse and policy. Examples include American news outlets describing the treatment by the British monarchy and press of Meghan Markle as part of a deeper structural racism with her husband, Prince Harry, portrayed as beginning to fully understand his own white privilege. Prince Harry didn't have to be white to be privileged. He's worth $50 million by himself, cut off from the royal family, and they're wondering how they're going to pay their bills. Oh, God. I couldn't think of a poor example that you would use in your article here. But, you know, that's the search engine optimization, right? I mean, that Meghan Markle was big, so hey, let's use it. What is this doing? Well, for one thing, it's driving people apart. Asian Americans have been verbally and physically attacked, shunned during pandemic. Study shows. I am not a virus. You probably shouldn't put the Chinese flag on your sign. Just saying. But, you know, everything's racist to these people. When your only tool's a hammer, everything's a nail. America First Reparations experiment, a complete disaster as black recipients complain $25K payments are not enough. It'll never be enough because you're giving people free money and they're not the ones who got shafted. People who were slaves, they're all dead. They're all dead. So were the slave owners too. They're all gone. Okay? You know, in terms of the Jim Crow stuff, yeah, maybe some people are still alive and they've got some lawsuits. But, you know, to give everybody $25K and hope that makes up for it, it'll never make up for it. They'll never stop asking for money. Ever. And some people have crazy ideas about reversing the entire process, and that will somehow make it equal. The best thing we could do is move forward and treat everybody equally from now going forward. But no one's talking about that. They're too busy dividing people up into groups and pitting them against each other. This is a trap. This is all a trap. The wokeness is designed to make you fight. Don't fight. Don't buy into this. I believe mostly it's being pushed by China. Behind the scenes on the internet, they're pushing and pushing and pushing this stuff. Most of this stuff is driven by the internet, from Twitter, from articles like this. Don't buy into it. And these woke idiots who do, quite frankly, they need to be re-educated, but mostly they need to be not in power. Don't give them power. Don't let them become part of the school board. Don't let them get up and complain without responding. Okay? If you let these people in, they will ruin everything because they believe they're being good. They believe, I so need to be good, and I need everybody to know that I'm good, so I'm going to do all this stuff, all this anti-racist stuff. Please like me. That's what it's about. So don't let them do it. Talk to people. And, you know, hopefully the wokeness will end. The trend's going to end at some point. Hopefully soon.